This is Rogers TV.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Out of the Fog. I'm your host, Laurabel. We have a fun-filled show for you tonight. We're joined by three amazing guests: Sherry Colford, who is the fire chief for the Regional St. John's Fire Department; Leisha Toory, who is the founder of Period Priority Project; and Santiago Guzman, who's the artistic director of TODOS Productions. So sit back, relax, and we'll be right back after a few messages. Welcome back, everyone. I'm now joined by Sherry Colford, Fire Chief for the St. John's Regional Fire Department. Sherry, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for the invitation.
So I'm so excited to have you here because you are the first fire chief for the first female fire chief, let me be sure about that, for the St. John's Regional Fire Department. So what has that experience been like for you?
It's certainly been probably one of the best experiences I've had. It has its challenging moments, but of course it has its rewards as well. So it's certainly been a ride over the last few years.
Okay, so you and I got to chat a little bit earlier about what your journey was like to becoming fire chief. So I thought you went through the whole being a firefighter, but what was it actually like for you?
So a lot of people think that I came up through as a firefighter. So I always like to, make it clear that I did not come up through as a firefighter. That's certainly a different type of challenging job. I ended up going to university and did a degree, and then I went into business. And my whole life, I always thought I would be a business person, and that was my path. And I was working with a company at the time, and we were at the Paramount Building. Okay. So I overlooked Central Fire Station, where the old Central Fire Station used to be, where the rooms is now. Yep. And I used to watch firefighters come out, and they would train every day. And I was young enough that I was still trying to find my way of what I wanted to do in my career. And I loved the company I was working for, but the job itself wasn't really resonating with me. Yep. And I'd watch them every day, and I would think, that's such a job that you're giving back to people, and it's a great job to, I guess, go into. So I decided I was going to quit my job, and I went to fire school, much to the surprise of many people, my family, friends. So I went to fire school for a year and got my certification, and my whole plan was I was going to go in as a firefighter. Yep. So I was waiting for the recruitment, and during that time a management analyst job was posted with the fire department. And it just basically took my two worlds and merged them together. Oh, cool. With my business and my firefighter certification. And so I applied, and I became a management analyst back a lifetime ago. And then slowly, I took on other divisions, 911, fire prevention. I did a lot of work for the fire chief and director at the time. So I was kind of exposed to this position throughout my whole career. And then when the opportunity came up, I decided it was time to go for the gold, so I did.
So you went for the gold and obviously won. So now you've been fire chief for a few years now.
About 4.5 years.
Oh my goodness, that's a while.
Yeah.
So we just moved through a summer where we saw a really big fire going on in Central. So what was it like being in that role through that?
So for me here, it was a little bit different because obviously this was a fire that was taking place in another part of the province. So on our end, and I assume you're talking about the fire in Port-aux-Basques,
yes.
Or
in the Central
Bay
region. Yes.
So it was more of myself and the other fire chiefs on the Northeast Avalon. We tend to partner a fair bit because we all experience the same challenges. And, we kind of band together and looked at our own part of the province and determined that we would put a fire ban here because we were seeing some of the same dry weather, but it's also recognizing that the provincial resources were so taxed in, out in Central that we didn't want to, kind of be going down that same road, and now we're spreading the resources even thinner. So for us, it wasn't so much handling that particular fire, it was looking at that and saying, what can we do to protect our end of the island for everybody's benefit? So, people saw a fire ban go in place for quite some time, but we did that for the safety of everyone.
So that's really interesting to kind of see that you guys saw what was going on and thought, hey, as a group, we need to make sure to prevent having to have the same experience here. We band together, put in the fire ban, and kind of prevent resources being spread any further.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So we're now in the middle of fall, we'll call it. I saw snow this morning and I was a little sad. So we're now in the middle of fall, and people might not be thinking fire safety the way we do in the summer because there isn't currently a fire ban because we're not experiencing dry weather. But during the winter and fall, we do still have fires happen pretty frequently as we move into Christmas. So do you mind sharing a couple tips for how we can move through fall and Christmas safely so we don't have a rash of fires occur?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily, in the summer we're always looking outwards, forest fires and people having chimneys in their backyard. When you start to get into the winter, fall, people are starting to be in their homes more. So now it's looking at your home safety. You're starting to use heaters, it could be chimneys or your fireplace. So you always want to make sure your chimneys are cleaned out. People use space heaters, so you always want to make sure that the cords are, intact, that there's no broken cords. So that's, kind of a winter heating your home, having fires in a fireplace. And then when you get into Christmas, now you're getting into a lot more what we would consider combustibles in your home with your holiday decorations. So we ask people when you're buying decorations, make sure they're flame retardant or flame resistant. Candles are a big thing this time of the year. I'm not a fan of candles, obviously, given my job. I use all battery-operated candles, but some people do like the ambiance of a real candle. So we encourage people that if you are going to use real candles, to only light them when you're in the room. If you have to leave the room, blow out the candle. Never have children around candles. Always put them in strategic places so you know where your candles are always lit. So when you're going to bed at night or you're leaving the house for a while, you know where to go and check to make sure all your candles are out. And with your Christmas tree, obviously, always keep it watered if you have a real tree. Make sure that it doesn't get dry. And with your Christmas lights, always make sure that your wires are intact, there's no broken wires. Don't tape them, throw them out, buy new lights. That would probably be my quickest fire safety tips for people.
Okay, so that's really good.
Yeah.
So to make sure, one, as we move into the winter, just to make sure that we check our electrical devices to make sure when they're plugged in, they're all in the best condition before you use them. Candles, make sure you blow them out before you leave the room. And non-combustible and flame retardant Christmas decorations?
Decorations, yeah, you can get that.
See, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I did not know flame retardant Christmas decorations were a thing. So I'm really excited about that. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to kind of talk to me a little bit about your journey to being fire chief and then how we kind of stay safe during the Christmas and holiday season. Before we leave, if there was one thing you wanted to let people know either about fire safety or about who you are, what would you want them to know about you?
I think the biggest thing would be on the fire safety side, because obviously we're all about prevention, even though we respond to calls and we're there within minutes. It's the prevention side. So probably the one thing I would say is anything that you do around your home, always be aware of what it is you're doing. And we do a lot of promotion in the schools, so when your kids come home with their activities, then join in with them, and so that the whole family can learn how to be more safe in their home and how to escape if they ever need to.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And we'll be right back, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, and I'm now joined by the amazing Leisha Toory, who is founder of the Period Priority Project. Leisha, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So I'm so excited to have you here, but I want to give our audience a little bit of a chance to get to know who you are. So who exactly is Leisha Toory?
So I am an undergrad at Memorial University. I'm in my 4th year of study, and over the summer I started the Period Priority Project. And the project is basically an advocate for menstrual equity. I try to make menstrual products accessible to everyone who needs them. And yeah, so just like a brief overview, within 6 months now, over 13,000 menstrual products have been distributed across Canada, basically. And yeah, I've also had the opportunity to set up free menstrual product stations in the gender inclusive washroom at Memorial University, just to kind of send out the message that not all cisgender women menstruate, and not all those who menstruate are cisgender women. And I've also had the chance to collaborate with the Prince of Wales Collegiate, where we're hosting free reusable cloth pad sewing sessions for students.
Oh, wow.
And it takes place like on a weekly basis, so we meet every Monday. And I've also partnered with the Social Justice Cooperative NL to distribute menstrual cups and period underwear. We've also been able to like distribute that as well.
Oh, that is so cool. Okay, so what inspired this? You're a full-time student. You already had a lot on your load. What got this started for you?
You know, so ever since I was like a child, I've always heard about how menstrual products are very expensive. Like by the women in my family, this would be like a recurring talk. But I wouldn't question it because everyone would just make a statement. And then back in high school, when we learned about menstruation, and it just came to me like, if this is in the educational curriculum, then why are we not talking about it? Why is there a culture of silence? Why is it a taboo? And it's something that I really wanted to make a change towards, because I just did not understand that stigma around it. And then I moved here, and I'm studying political science. Okay. So, you know, it kind of made me more confident to question things. And I learned about the homelessness and food insecurity. And the only thing that came to my mind was there are people out there who have to choose between food, shelter, and menstrual products because they're very expensive for something that is a basic necessity. And also with COVID, when the prices of groceries started rising, I thought to myself, what if there was a food bank, but just for period products? But that doesn't exist. We don't have that.
No.
So that's when I thought that maybe just come up with like a project that kind of acts like that, but like on a smaller scale, of course. And that's how, you know, the project started, to just kind of hopefully help people who need menstrual products but cannot access them.
Okay, so you thought of this as a small-scale project,
Yes.
something to do a little bit on the side, and
Yeah.
it's absolutely grown from a small-scale project to something that you're now able to serve all of Canada whenever people need and you have the ability to. So how has that been for you? What kind of workforce? Is it just you doing all this, or are they volunteers? How does this work?
So it's just me for now, because like I'm still learning. It was initially, I thought it would be just over the summer, but then organizations started reaching out to me and asked me if I could drop off menstrual products like for them, or like have it shipped to them. And then I thought, you know, this is a serious issue and I should keep going. So yeah, but what I do is I Google different shelters across Canada, and then I get their contact information and send them an email whether they're low in period supply, because some organizations have a surplus, and I just want to make sure that, you know, it's going to those who need them the most. And yeah, we then schedule a time to meet, and I just drop off the donations to them.
Okay, so how do you go about collecting donations? Are you going out buying them yourself? Are people or organizations giving you funding? What's that process like for you?
So it's been great, actually, the community support. They drop off donations, and then I just re-sort them into bags and distribute them. And there's also been organizations who have given me monetary donations. So out of the 13,000 menstrual products that have been distributed, it's either been donated or people have given me monetary donation to purchase them.
Okay, so that's fantastic. So
Yeah.
there are people
Yes,
out there who are
yes,
supporting this
yes,
project.
for sure.
So this has been going on for only a few months now for you.
Yes.
What are your goals, and what do you want to see when it comes to this project?
I hope to be able to just kind of like have a period supply bank, like an actual building where people can just drop by and, you know, get the menstrual products that they need, because I feel like this is really needed. There's still a long way to go to kind of make it affordable, so why not try to like make the most of what we have right now, and also hopefully get sustainable menstrual products more accessible to folks, because yes, they are kinder to the planet, but they're still not affordable to many. So that's something that I hope to work towards. And yeah, so I guess that would be my goals for now.
So has there been anything that you've really found really interesting as you've gone through this process? Any kind of learnings that you've thought, wow, I never thought or I never knew? What would those be for you?
So when I started shipping, I got into contact actually with someone in Yukon, and they told me that, you know, they don't have access to clean water, so I can't send sustainable menstrual cups because to manage them you need clean water. And then, you know, it was just a shock to me because, you know, we're in 2022, everyone should have access to clean water. And that kind of just made me like think about it on a bigger scale, like what can we do? What are the different steps we can take to be able to get like sustainable menstrual products to these people? And then I got into contact with different sustainable menstrual products organizations, and we just talked about it. So we're gonna try a few products and, you know, hopefully like maybe help them. And also, I guess what has been, well, surprising in a way is every parent that I've met or every parent that has like emailed me, they've told me that, you know, their child is still hesitant to talk to them about menstruation. And that's really sad, you know, because this is something that you should not feel hesitant to ask questions about. It's a question of menstrual health. You have to be ready, you have to be confident to ask questions about your body so that you can self-advocate. You need that bodily autonomy. And also I know a lot of women who have reached out to me and told me every time they've heard my interview on the radio or TV, they're like, you know, I also like, I wasn't able to like talk about it in high school. I had to hide this, hide that. And in a way it connects all of us, but it's really sad because it shouldn't have to be that way.
It's truly inspiring to sit here and listen to you speak. So before I let you go, if there was one thing you wanted our audience to know about the Period Project or about you as an individual and what keeps you going, what would you want people to know?
You don't necessarily have to wait for like someone in power, or sometimes it's doing the most with what you have. And actually this is something Courtney Clark, co-chair of Equal Voice, said, and it's something that I think is going to be my motto now. She said, it all starts from within. Just do the most with what you have. Like, you have to believe in yourself.
It's been absolutely amazing to kind of sit here and talk to you. I told you earlier that I am a big fan of what you do and how you've been working in the community. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. Thank you.
And we'll be right back, everybody. And welcome back. I am now joined by the Artistic Director for TODOS Productions, Santiago Guzman. Santiago, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So before we get into all the amazing things that you've done with TODOS Productions, I want to give our audience a chance to get to know who Santiago is. So who is Santiago and how did he end up on this couch?
Oh my gosh, that's such a big question. Well, I am a performer, I am a writer, I am a director, I am a producer, I am a dramaturge. I work in theater primarily, but I also work in film and TV. I moved to Newfoundland and Labrador 7 years ago to pursue an acting career. But then, you know, one thing led to another, and then I began doing other things. And this is how I ended up here. And yeah, I have been working professionally since 2017. And then I decided to create spaces for people like me who never saw themselves represented on the stage or on the screen through art.
So you say other things so casually, but those other things are really, really big things, and that's why you're here.
Thank you.
So when you say other things, you mean TODOS, the entire entity of TODOS Productions. So what is that?
Yeah, well, TODOS Productions is a theater company that seeks to produce, promote, develop, and support the work of marginalized communities in Newfoundland and Labrador, primarily those communities that historically have not been seen or heard in the main stream of the theater industry. And by that I mean Indigenous, Black, people of color, artists with disabilities, 2 LGBTQIA+, immigrants, and so to me it was an opportunity to foster those voices in our community. And since we began very, very small, obviously, with a workshop production of my first play, the first play that I wrote. And the interesting thing was that I began my journey as a playwright as an act of rebellion. Okay. Because as an actor, I was constantly getting cast in background characters or secondary characters that were just supporting a white narrative. And I got tired of it because I thought that I was very talented. And I was like, well, how come I'm not getting a fair chance to show you who I am? So then I was also being cast in stereotypes of my intersecting identity. So I was like, okay, enough. I'm gonna write something that shows you the real me, the full me. So I wrote this play called Altar, which is a one-person show about the experience of a newcomer to Newfoundland and Labrador, whose heart has been broken by his ex-boyfriend who ghosted him. So he decides to set up an altar, like in Day of the Dead, or Dia de Muertos, we call it in Spanish, and to summon the ghost of his boyfriend who left him, so that he can find some resolution to that relationship. So that was the workshop production in 2019. That was the first show that we did with TODOS, and then it kept growing, and it kept growing, and it kept growing. And I think that for me, when very quickly in that career, I realized that writing had power. The reason why we were not seeing other identities represented on stage was because diverse writers were not writing. So I began developing those spaces for people to get some skills and write their plays. Alongside Robert Chafe, an award-winning playwright from Newfoundland and Labrador. And then, the company kept growing, and we have produced another show of mine, Earn, which toured to Nova Scotia earlier this year. And we're working on Newfoundlanded, which is a verbatim theater piece about the experiences of immigrants and refugees to Newfoundland and Labrador, and, other projects coming up.
Okay, so I'm going to focus a little bit on Newfoundlanded,
Yes,
because that was the one that recently just closed. So what exactly was that project like for you?
Yeah, well, so funny enough, I began with the idea of Newfoundlanded in 2019, when I had already written my one-person show, where I used both my identities as a Mexican and a Newfoundlander by choice in the same play. But then I realized that was one voice, my voice. And I thought to myself that we had never seen experiences or the voices of immigrants and refugees on stage. And I thought to myself, well, I have my lived experience, but I can't represent everybody. So in what way can I do that? So then one of the things that we decided to do then was to interview immigrants and refugees from across Newfoundland and Labrador. We did that at the height of the pandemic, so we did it via Zoom. And we interviewed people about their experiences and, how did they come here? How was the process of adaptation, their relationship to language, family, community, and ultimately, why did they stay or not? And then 3 writers, including myself, Vanessa Cardoso-Wayland, and Nabila Qureshi, got together and took some of those quotes from those interviews and drafted up a journey, a story, a theatrical exploration of what these stories could look like. So this year, in co-production with White Rooster Theater, which is one of the most important feminist theater companies in the community, we got together to develop a workshop production. So earlier this year in August, we hired 7 beautiful actors in our community that varied in experience, but they were all interested in being on stage, which was the thing that I was excited about. So we hired them and a director, Azul dos Anjos, to come in and play, well, first of all, lift off the pages with their voices. So we had a public reading in August, and then recently we had a second workshop production now with an exploration to the physical interpretation of this world that we had created on the page. So we had beautiful designers involved, Anna and Eric, the musicians, Nico Paulo doing set and costume design, and Reg Hoskins doing the lighting. With the actors and the director, and all of it put together in a way that we could understand a little bit more the story that we were telling. And the response was really great, even though it was a work in progress showing. The audiences were responding really positively. And the thing that excites me the most is that every single time that I am doing a show, either if it's I am producing or if I'm involved, I really focus on outreach. Like, how do I let people know that this show is happening? And it shows, like it was so exciting for me to go to the LSPU hall, which is where, most of these plays happen, and to see not only the most diverse theater company putting up a show, but the most diverse audiences coming to see these shows.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me. It's been absolutely amazing to talk to you about all of this.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be right back, everybody. It was super amazing to talk to the first female fire chief, Sherry Colburn, for the St. John's Regional Fire Department about fire safety. I absolutely loved seeing what Santiago had going on with TODOS Productions and bringing diverse voices to the stage. And if you're looking to make a donation to the Period Priority Project, check them out on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook at Period Priority Project. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode, and we will see you guys again soon. Have a great evening.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
If you have a comment about this program, we'd love to hear it. Email or call us, or send us your feedback through social media.
That he fell.
Whoa, I'm not driving. I'm way too stoned. How are you feeling, Beer?
Since we had that